Okay. Welcome. Okay, Teresa, I'm gonna mute you, okay? Um, Welcome to this week's Ollie Brown Bag presentation. My name is Dane Oppenborn. I'm the interim Ollie program specialist, and we have these presentations every Monday from 12 to 1:30. So I'm glad everyone here can make it. And we're going to begin with a land acknowledgement. We acknowledge that Cal Poly Humboldt is located on the unceded lands of the Wiyot people. Arcata is known as Gudini, meaning over in the woods or among the redwoods. We honor them and all our neighboring tribes by our ongoing commitment to developing trusting, reciprocal, and long-lasting partnerships. And here at OLLI, we believe that learning should never end. OLLI creates opportunities for academic engagement, community involvement, personal growth, and fun for adults 50 and better. Brown bag lunch presentations are just one way OLLI provides learning and community to members and non-members alike. Thank you very much for being a part of our community today. If you're wondering what OLLI is a membership-based program for lifelong learners age 50 and better. But if you're over 18, you can join OLLI. It's totally fine. It's just our programming is designed for the 50 and better crowd. OLLI hosts one-time series classes that include topics in history, science, music, technology, art, cooking, lots of different subjects that we have here at OLLI. The membership year is $35 a year. It goes from July 1st to June 30th, and you need to renew every year to stay active. And also, if you are a Cal Poly Humboldt retired or current staff and faculty, membership is $25 a year. Some of the benefits for OLLI membership include lower class fees, meaning that you don't have to pay the additional $25 class registration fee. Cal Poly Humboldt email account, which gives you a bunch of digital accesses, including Zoom, Microsoft Office, Adobe Suite, lots of different accesses that that email account gets you. You get a discount on the Jack Pass, eligibility for course scholarships. You get a student discount at local businesses with your ID card. You can participate in the OLLI special interest groups like Elizabeth Morrison's live and local special concert series. That one's a really fun one. You get library access, you get gym and recreation center access with a small fee. You get invitations and reminders for OLLI events like this and Brown Bag and open house events, and also including our OLLI 20th year celebration, which is happening this November. If you would like to stay up to date with OLLI but don't necessarily want to join as a member yet, you can totally join our newsletter. All you have to do is go to humboldt.edu/OLLI. One of the big purple buttons at the top of the screen will say subscribe to the OLLI newsletter. And that will get you event details, upcoming classes, special community event details. A lot of what happens in Humboldt County, we try to reflect that in our newsletter. So stick around and find out. And then you are here right now for the Brown Bag Lunch presentation. This happens every Monday from 12 to 1:30 p.m. It is facilitated by our wonderful Jane Woodward, our longtime OLLI member and curriculum committee member. Thank you very much, Jane. And these informational presentations are meant to solicit community members and people who are experts in their field. And it's just a way for the Humboldt community to stay up to date, including with a very important topic that Darlene will give us in just a couple minutes. If you want to check out our previous brown bag lunch presentations, you can do so by going to our YouTube channel. It is youtube.com/@OLLIHumboldt. And if you want notifications, you just click that subscribe button, and then every time we upload a new brown bag presentation, you'll get a notification. Another thing happening this Friday and every Friday is our Let's Connect. This is facilitated by our Tracy Barnes Priestley. It started during COVID as a way to just have people talk, continue to stay connected. But after the pandemic started to die down, people just really like joining and talking. It happens every Friday from 10 to 11, and every week features a different topic. This week's topic is how did you celebrate your birthday when you were a kid? Yeah, if you want to sign up for it, just go on our website, OLLI/Let's Connect on our extended education website. And for our OLLI scholarships, this is made possible because of the generosity of the Friends of OLLI, so thank you very much. All OLLI members are eligible to apply for scholarship funds to help defray the cost of course fees. To apply for a scholarship, all you need to do is submit an OLLI scholarship request form, and that is on our website. Scholarships may only apply to course fees and not to your actual membership, so just a heads up. And you have a limit of 2 per term based on financial need. And if you have any questions about OLLI, brown bag presentation, classes, please give us a call at 707-826-5880 or email us at olli@humboldt.edu. Without further ado, I'm going to turn it over to Jane. Jane is going to introduce our guest for today, so take it away, Jane. Oh, you are muted, Jane.
Yes, it's helpful if I unmute. Sorry about that. I was about to launch. In fact, I had started launching. I'm delighted to welcome you all here today. I have invited Darlene, and she has invited also Cheryl Churchill, who's with the Housing Authority of Eureka, to address the issue of housing and housing of the homeless here under the circumstances of our funding issues these days, which have become their funding issues, which have become all of our funding issues. Dr. Darlene Spoor has served as the executive director of Arcata House Partnership. During her tenure, the organization has flourished, providing a commitment to a sustainable organization that provides compassionate and effective services to thousands of unhoused and low-income individuals each year. She has over 30 years of progressive experience in nonprofit management and leadership, as well as extensive experience creating programs. And we have benefited from that enormously. I hope she'll brag about it a lot. Cheryl Churchill has been with the housing authorities of the city of Eureka and the county of Humboldt since 2009 and has served as executive director since 2018. She's a Eureka native and is proud to serve her community as the head of these 2 agencies, providing affordable housing and rental assistance to over 1,400 households in Humboldt County. I judge that's a year. So go for it. We're happy to hear what's been happening and what's at risk. Thank you so much. And thank all of you for coming.
Yeah, thank you, Jane. And thank you all for being here. Today, we're going to talk about the state of affordable housing in Humboldt County and some of the challenges and opportunities. And I'd like to start the conversation by asking Cheryl if you would talk a little about the mission of the housing authorities, the 2 housing authorities that you oversee so very well. Thank you for being our partner.
Thank you, Darlene, and thank you, Jane, for the introduction. And thank you all for being here. I usually am in Zooms with a lot of familiar names, and I see a couple that I'm familiar with today, but it's nice to see some new names, and hopefully that means we have a lot of our community really interested in this issue and in housing and all that's associated with it. But just to set the stage for my piece and what the housing authorities do, I'm just going to go ahead and read this. The mission of the housing authorities of the city of Eureka and county of Humboldt is to assist low-income families with safe, decent, and affordable housing opportunities as they strive to achieve self-sufficiency and improve the quality of their lives. The Housing Authority is committed to operating in an efficient, ethical, and professional manner and treating all clients with dignity and respect. The Housing Authority will create and maintain partnerships with its clients and appropriate community agencies in order to accomplish this mission. And I will add to that Arcata House Partnership has become one of our very close partnerships in serving the community They helped us immensely with getting a lot of our homeless community housed during the pandemic with our emergency vouchers. And I'm just very thankful for the work that they're doing in the community and in collaboration with the housing authorities. Next slide.
Thank you, Cheryl. I think it's important to say, and we'll talk throughout this presentation, that there's a whole homeless response system that we've developed over the years and fine-tuned, which really helps all of us work together to do our jobs. So thank you for that, Cheryl. Our mission at Arcata House Partnership is to provide advocacy for and services to people who are homeless and food insecure. And we do that with compassion, dignity, and empowerment. And last year, we supported 121 housing units, provided 2,000, I think that number's wrong, 2,500 pounds of, oh, food gleaned weekly. Okay, I'm sorry. Yes, that's certainly correct. And we served over 900 participants, and many of the people that we serve are also people that the housing authority serves. And we really appreciate that. We provide service at 10 locations throughout the county. Just like Cheryl, we serve countywide as well. We do street outreach, showers, hygiene services, mail services. We connect people and refer people to our partners. We provide emergency response. We have several different shelters depending on the population, family shelter, adult shelter, people re-entering from prison, people fleeing domestic violence, etc. We provide rapid rehousing and permanent supportive housing, and certainly food services to people who are food insecure. Next slide, please.
So we're trying to paint a picture today, not just of what we do, but what it looks like out here in the community for people who are housing insecure or houseless. And so these are some of the recent headlines that I've seen that should all have us like a little bit kind of concerned about our community. So affordable housing out of reach for half of all US workers. For 27% of tenants, rent is more than half their income. I mean, can you imagine? That's painful. And despite improvement, California again has the highest poverty rate in the US. And I think about that one, especially with us being what, the fourth largest economy in the world, like just our state, and yet we have the highest poverty in our country. It's kind of mind-blowing, and we try to work towards the solutions, and that's what we want to present is the challenges, and let's talk about what we can do.
Thank you. So the state of homelessness right now in Humboldt County is growing by the moment. And in another slide you'll see, but I'm going to say to you that we know for every one person who's homeless that we house, 3 people are becoming homeless, generally for the first time. So what we're seeing is that on the streets, we're not seeing this amazing system that's housing people and there's less people on the streets. We can't, as a homeless response system, possibly keep up with the number of people who are losing their housing. And here's some of the reasons that people lose their housing. When people can't afford rent, homelessness increases. America's housing affordability crisis is caused by deeply rooted challenges. There's just not enough affordable housing development and preservation that's happening. Inadequate rental assistance programs for low income and people who have weak safety nets like Social Security can't possibly afford the kinds of rent, even here in Humboldt County, that landlords are asking. And that's really contributing. That's the #1 reason why we are seeing people becoming homeless right now. And our largest population, I must say, is seniors, without a doubt, who should never have to worry at 70 or 80 years old how they're going to pay the rent tomorrow. The end of the COVID relief money really took away a lot of the temporary supports that we had in place that were a really important part of the safety net that we had established here. Discriminatory policies and practices make it even harder for certain populations to find housing. And the lack of deeply affordable housing is the primary cause of homelessness. For many, rising costs create an impossible choice between paying for housing and other necessities. Even if people own their own mobile home park rents are increasing at rates that people who thought they had some housing security simply cannot afford to stay there any longer. And so in 2024, we did in Humboldt County, the Continuum of Care, which is the organization that both Cheryl as organization and Arcata House Partnership belong to. We're part of a group of organizations that serve people who are homeless and food insecure. And each year, every 2 years, we have to do a point in time count, which is required by the federal government to identify how many people are unsheltered homeless in our county. And in 2024, 1,573 people were identified themselves as being homeless on that day. That doesn't mean that's how many people were homeless on that day. And it certainly doesn't mean that's how many people were homeless today, 1 year later. It means that on that day, that's how many people allowed us to count. Now, our street outreach people are suspecting that there's probably close to 3,000 people today who are in need of services, who are either homeless or at risk of becoming homeless, who are living on the edge. They've already received eviction notices. Their rents are far more than they could ever afford to pay. And some people are paying upwards of 80% of their income for rents. So we suspect that the number is double that. And that's really scary here. Next slide, please.
Thanks, Darlene. I just wanted to add to that because I like to see things as percentages. And so that 1,573 number, I did a quick lookup of our county population, and that 1,573 is 1.2%. So what we're really talking about today is somewhere between 1% to 3% of our population in Humboldt County is homeless. And I look at the resources and the space we have, and I just have to ask why. Why? I think we should all be asking that. So just a quick definition, what HUD and what our federal government considers affordable and what's kind of been the benchmark for years is that housing is considered affordable if you pay 30% or less of your gross earnings on housing costs. So that is if you consider your cost of housing, whether it's rent or mortgage, and the cost of your basic utilities, the necessities, electricity, gas, water, and trash. And if altogether that is 30% or less of your income, that's considered affordable. So that's what we do with our programs to make it affordable, but that is not really the reality.
Yes, so the reality here is that the average studio in California is $1,848. Here in Humboldt County, it's $1,345. Oh my goodness. If our average senior population is earning between $550 and $1,500 a month in Social Security, it's impossible to pay rents at those rates, right? And that's why we're seeing so many more people. And again, mostly seniors is the people that we're getting calls from, but certainly everyone, single adults, a lot of people with disabilities, nearly 100% of the people that we serve at Arcata House Partnership have disabilities and have limited income. Everyone is at or below that Social Security rate for the people that we serve. And so this is very telling. Thank you, Florence. This is very telling because what this says is that in Humboldt County, over 6,000 people do not have access to an affordable home. That's a huge number. And if we're talking again, just affordability, and Cheryl is saying between 1% and 3% are likely to be homeless, then we're saying then 6% here is living in households that they can't afford. right? There are only 36 affordable and available rental homes for every 100 people who are low income, who really need that kind of support. And in California, California has fewer than 25 affordable rental homes available for every 100 extremely low rental renters. This demand far outweighs the need. And as we're seeing more and more people coming into us who are needing service, instead of the number of people who are homeless going down, we're seeing it absolutely going up in record numbers. Thank you. Next slide, please.
So Darlene was mentioning folks who are extremely low income. This slide is to help us put that in perspective with numbers. It's my comfort zone. So let's look at the numbers here. I've highlighted the median family income for Humboldt. So again, this is the middle. Half of the population is below, half of it is above, is $80,000. And so what we're looking at is the below part. And when we talk about extremely low income, and that is at least 75% of the population we serve, it's probably closer to 90%. And I think it's all of the population that Arcata House serves.
Mhm.
And we're talking about an income for one person that's $19,750 or less, and for a two-person household, $22,000 or under. So, you know, when you think about what that means on a monthly basis, it's somewhere around maybe $1,300, which doesn't meet that requirement for a basic studio apartment in Humboldt County. And so with the Housing Authority, I took a look at our households that are assisted with vouchers to come up with what does the average picture look like. So the average family income of a voucher assisted household is just above $1,000 a month. That is their gross income. Our average family size is 1.5. So majority of households that we serve are one person or two people. The landlord's asking rent on average is $1,049. And then, which again, like look at the first number, the rent surpasses the income. And so with our programs, we do HAP is housing assistance payment. And so we pay about $776 on average to that landlord. And then the tenant, to bring it down to that 30% level of affordability, they're paying about $263 on average in rent. So with a program like the voucher program, it works. And here's the degree to which it works. So this is actually a projection for this full year, assuming we get funded through the end of the year, which honestly, with the shutdown is a big question right now.
Mhm.
But our projection for the year is over $11 million in housing assistance payments. So those are payments made to the landlord. The tenant pays their portion, we pay the rest. And then another $72,000 in utility reimbursement payments. So, you know, I mentioned earlier, affordable rent is not just your rent, but it's also your utilities. So for some of the households that we assist, their income is so low, they don't have sufficient income to pay their utilities. Maybe it's not included in rent. So we also give them a subsidy to help them pay their utilities. We're projecting to assist 14,186 unit months, meaning if you add up every household assisted every month, and we get to the end of the year, we'll have assisted over 14,000 unit months. That's, like I said, that's a big question right now because the shutdown is threatening to stop those payments and that assistance. So, you know, let's take a look at what does an average assisted household look like, because when I look at the demographics and the numbers, it's very different than what people talk about on the street. Oh, it's just, you know, people who don't want to work. It's people taking advantage of the system. And truly the numbers paint a different picture. So over 3/4 are extremely low income. So again, we're back to $19,000 a year or less. And really there's a lot of less. 64% of our voucher clients have a disabled head of household. Now, they may also have a disabled partner or disabled dependents in the household. But again, we're talking well over half have disabilities. In addition to that, 51% of our head of households are 62 years or older. So that's what's considered elderly, according to HUD. But see the little note below that? 64% are 55 or older. So again, we're talking about the majority of that population we're serving really is the seniors in our community. And their primary source of income, for 74% of them, their primary source of income is Social Security. And that Social Security is probably $1,000 a month or less.
Thank you. People age 50 and older are, again, our fastest growing population experiencing homelessness in America, and certainly here in Humboldt County. And I think it needs to be said that we are known for something that we don't necessarily want to be number one in. We in Humboldt County are number one. We have the highest rate of people per capita who are homeless in the country. In the country, let me say that again. In Humboldt County, we have the highest rate per capita of people who are homeless in the country. Now, what that says to people in Cheryl's chair or in my chair is, and certainly in yours, I hope you're asking, wow, of course it feels overwhelming to think about the sheer number of people who are homeless and the sheer number of people who are about to become homeless. And the numbers are estimated to triple by 2030. That's the national number by the National Association to National Alliance to End Homelessness. Right now, we know that 14,000 people a week are becoming homeless in this country for the first time. 14,000 people. And that equates to what's happening right here in Humboldt County as well. That's because of financial instability and lack of affordable housing and healthcare costs that continue to rise and fixed incomes that are so low that people really can't live on them and limited access to care, right? We have certainly people in our programs who should be in assisted living and it's just not there. I mean, there are needs here that just can't be managed any other way. So, in Humboldt County, about 21% of the population is 65 or older. The point in time count showed us that only 12% of the people who were counted on that day that we did the point in time count were over 65. I think mostly because a lot of people who are older and becoming homeless for the first time don't know how to find services. They don't know where to go. They don't know how to ask those questions. And so they're suffering in silence. And we find the same thing with families who are becoming homeless for the first time as well, or individuals, right? There are just not at all enough services. And unfortunately, we, both the housing authorities and Arcata House Partnership, see people coming to us every day asking for help. And we have to say, we don't have housing vouchers. We don't have any more support. We don't know how to help more people. And we have hundreds of people on our waiting lists. And so we don't even keep a waiting list anymore because earlier this year, the federal government let both the housing authorities and organizations like Arcata House Partnership know not to expect any more vouchers. Not only that, they took away funding. And I want to kind of stop for a minute here and look to you, Cheryl, because the funding that was taken away from you and from us has a direct impact on the number of people that we serve. Now, in January, Arcata House Partnership laid off 16 people, staff, cut programs, and had to redo our agency budget for this year because we projected a $2.1 million reduction in services. 2 weeks ago, we were told to project even more, and we'll get to that in a few minutes. But Cheryl, that same effect happened for the Housing Authority, yes?
Yeah, that's right. We had $2 million, just under $2 million pulled from us at the end of last year. So where we had a pretty amazing growth here last year, and we had planned to assist at least another 70 households before the end of 2024, that actually all got put on hold on election day, and we were told no more issuing vouchers. And so not only did that stop everything, and some of our planned growth in 2024, but it's prevented us from issuing vouchers in 2025. We do still have a wait list. We have 1,600 people on our wait list for voucher assistance, but it is essentially frozen. And so if we had to close it, if we had it open, I'm pretty sure that number, would be well up over 1,800 or 2,000 at this point.
Right. Absolutely. What we see on this slide here is that as rents go up, groceries go up, healthcare goes up, transportation goes up. We've seen in since the beginning of this year, actually since election, but certainly since January of 2025, a 300% increase in the number of people coming to the food pantries that Arcata House Partnership manages. We manage 2 and we support 18 others, so a total of 20. And we 2 weeks ago ran out of food in 45 minutes. 45 minutes. The number of people who are coming to our food pantry has just grown astronomically. Now, I want to make sure that people know, keep coming, because we are doing everything we can to get more food and have more support for people. So don't stop coming. Come to our food pantries. Come to the pantries that we support as well, with our gleaned food. Call everyone. If you need help, make sure you're making the calls. Next slide, please. So again, nationally, we know that there are 2 things that are very difficult, the most difficult, I think, for seniors to kind of live through. And one of those is financial issues, insecurity, and the other is isolation. And we have seen certainly that when we finally go to people that we think need our support, or when they finally come to us, that seniors have been isolated for a very long time because they're embarrassed that they can't care for themselves. They're embarrassed that they don't have the financial need. After living all of these years, they're embarrassed that they need to ask for assistance. I want to say loud and proud, please don't be embarrassed to ask for assistance. We may not have what you need today, but we may be able to provide something for you, or we may be able to connect something. And I don't just mean Arcata House Partnership or the Housing Authority. We are part of a larger continuum of services, and we are proud to be part of that. And we want to make sure that people feel empowered. These services are entitlements. They're not only services for people who are taking advantage. And I think that's an important conversation that Cheryl brought up. Most of the people we serve are people like you and I, people who sit next to you in church, people who sit next to your granddaughter in school, people who you may be in a book club with, and you just don't even know. As we move forward, the threat of federal support for affordable housing is being reduced or taken away. I alluded to this a few minutes ago. Cheryl talked about some reductions that happened immediately after the election. In January, we heard about more reductions. 2 weeks ago, we heard about more reductions. Friday, the reason I'm in San Francisco is I'm down here having meetings with state legislators and people from housing and community development offices. We are all we sat in a room Friday with 1,000 housing providers trying to figure out what now, because 2 weeks ago we got more conversation about reductions. And we're being told clearly by the federal government, it is just the beginning. And so, next slide, please.
Thanks, Darlene. So this is, quick look at who would be the most impacted if we were to lose voucher assistance. So again, we serve just under 1,200 households, but it's more than that. So first, obviously, our participants. The loss of assistance for them could mean the loss of their housing. And so tied to that is the landlords, right? And I know we have so many generous landlords in our community that are willing to work with the tenants. But there's also, I mean, most of them, their rental payment is making their mortgage payment, right? It's an investment and they're in it for business. So they may have to pursue eviction if those payments stop coming in. And we've also seen sometimes they just, there's enough kind of question, and they're going to stop supporting the voucher program in general, which means every time we lose a landlord, assistance, even though we don't directly report that, we're losing assistance for affordable housing. Employers also, right? If people are losing their housing without stable housing, employees have difficulty focusing, showing up for work. So the employers are going to feel the impact of this, and so is the community. Again, trickle-down effect that homelessness is going to affect the employers, then it's going to affect their businesses, it's going to affect the overall economy and just the stability of our community. And also, I don't want to fail to mention the unhoused. Once more people start becoming homeless, their opportunities, their chances and likelihood of getting housed, even that falls. So, we talk about, not being able to assist a certain household. It really just has this impact that's widespread and would be wide felt throughout the community.
Thank you. I want to address some of the stuff on that last slide as well. So again, I said that we serve about a little over 900 people last year, and 121 of those in housing units. And so that equates to 1,452 unit rents. If our average unit rent to landlords is $1,100. We at Arcata House Partnership alone, and we're only one of many service organizations who provide this support, we contribute $1,600,000 to our local economy, to our landlords for rents, right? $1,600,000. If this funding source goes away, that's a huge impact on our landlords. And yours is 10 times that, right? You serve 10 times the people that we do. So we can assume that's about $16-18 million. So altogether, we're talking about just these two organizations, close to $20 million in rental support that we bring into the local economy. We also employ people. The housing authorities employ people. We employ people. Those people get employed because of funding from these federal programs. If that goes away, then we have more people who are unemployed, who are living on the edge. It all affects everything. Everything's connected. And so what does this mean for the community? Well, we certainly don't want more people living on the streets or more people living in their cars. The work that Cheryl and I go to work every day because we're committed to helping people get and stay housed. And so that's an important thing to us. But the impacts are great, right? If we have to lose staff, if we have to close programs, and we already have, we've closed programs since January. If there are more needs and less services, if more people are falling through the cracks, and they are, we know that. There's no protection for vulnerable groups. If 100% of the people we serve have a disability, and 100% of the people we serve live at or below very low incomes, that's usually Social Security, then what's going to happen when these funding supports go away? There is no safety net anymore. We in Humboldt County worked for years, for 10 years that I've been here and longer, to make sure that we all work together to develop this very successful safety net, and it all got destroyed. It's all destroyed. There is no safety net right now. We don't know what's going to happen if our vouchers go away. The housing authority doesn't know what happens if the vouchers go away. People are going to suffer. This is a really important thing. Thank you.
So I don't want to kind of beat a dead horse here, but I mean, this is just taking a look at what are some of those kind of invisible costs. And I think the biggest one, because we've talked about housing stability. I mean, families end up getting forced into crowded housing and they become housing insecure, right? Couch surfing, living in other people's homes, it gets unsafe, you know, being crowded. And we talked briefly about the community destabilization, but you know, I got one of those polls via text last week. Hey, Cheryl, this is so-and-so checking in about the upcoming election. What do you think are the biggest issues for California? And I mean, I work in housing, but my response is it's housing, it's affordable housing and healthcare, because they're so tied together. So we think about what is the increased public cost, and there it is. It's more ER visits, it's more mental health crises, it's more involvement needed from child welfare because the children are suffering from the impact of being housing insecure or homeless. Costs for our law enforcement goes up, and just that greater overall cost for the emergency response systems. So, you know, what we're looking at really is an impending like public healthcare crisis, you know, along with threatened homelessness for a lot of households. And I promise we are going to get to the point where we talk about how you all can help. But, you know, it's just really important to us to paint a picture of how dire the need for assistance is right now.
Yes, thank you, Cheryl. So what are we doing locally? And here's where we start to talk about there is so much wonderful work happening. And I want you to know that. And so the homeless emergency response system, again, is something that certainly I and Cheryl have worked really hard to fine tune and to strengthen, only to have a lot of it just pulled right out from under us. But we aren't stopping there. We are working with dozens of organizations. We meet every other week. We have conversations. If as a group, if we need to meet individually, we meet more often. And the representatives for people in this homeless emergency response system include all of us, include people who are passionate about affordable housing and food and nutrition and schools and child and family services and domestic violence and substance use and medical services and emergency services, law enforcement, tribal governments, local government agencies, and our community and our volunteers and our donors. It takes all of us to keep this system as together as we can make it. And we are doing that. We are. You are doing that. You're doing it. You're sitting here. You're listening to us. So what can we do? Prevention, obviously, is the best place to start. Once people become homeless, it is harder and more costly to get them rehoused than it is to keep them in their homes. And so we need to make sure that we advocate for the vulnerable populations, the people that currently have vouchers who need that rental support. We have to make sure that our senators, our governor, our representatives know that they need to work to keep that funding coming our way. We also need to work to find ways to prevent people from becoming homeless for the first time, right? What I said at the beginning of this, for every one person we're housing right now, we're seeing 3 people becoming unhoused. We need to stop that flow into homelessness. We need to stop those numbers. And so prevention is the key. And we know that there's no money coming out of the federal government for homelessness, but certainly for prevention. So we have got to look to other organizations. We've got to look to The poor state government is hearing from all of us about, well, here's all the federal money that's getting taken away. What are you going to do? And we know that the state doesn't have the money to possibly afford the sheer number of funding dollars that we're losing from the federal government. So we're certainly putting a lot of pressure on our governor to do as much as he can. And we appreciate that. But we also have to look to other places. We have to look to private foundations. We have to look to philanthropy. We have to get the word out that every dollar matters. We have to support people with functional needs. We have to support people who are seniors. We have to support people who are fleeing domestic violence. We have to find ways to make things happen. Now, things are all not doom and gloom here. We are now in a place where Cheryl and I really want to talk about, so what can we do locally? Next slide, please.
All right, so the action part, right? I wanted to talk about, I just wanted to add to Darlene's conversation about what the state's doing before I forget this. And, you know, the state has put in their budget amounts for low-income housing tax credits, which help build new affordable housing and for other housing programs. But as the Housing Authority is finding out, because in addition to our voucher program, we own public housing that we're trying to redevelop, and it takes money to get money. So, you know, this ends up just being a whole challenge of cobbling together enough funds to actually make something happen. It's a huge challenge. And I know the state's trying, and thank you, Darlene, for your efforts in those meetings and lobbying for us, but it's quite an equation to sort out. Well, what can we do locally? So supporting pro-affordable housing initiatives. I know, for example, you know, Eureka got its pro-housing designation and has, you know, been working on making things easier to get more housing built. Attending local meetings to speak in favor of affordable housing, attending meetings like this, where you're getting yourself educated, and share the video afterwards with your friends. Hopefully you're finding it all valuable to help get them educated, because the more you know, the more you can do. Darlene touched on helping to prevent homelessness, supporting your housing authority, rental assistance programs. You can donate to Arcata House or any of our other wonderful organizations, community land trusts, other nonprofits. And then also just talking with people. You know, we started this presentation with talking about what does the average household look like. Let people know we're not just giving handouts. Like, these are people who more than deserve the assistance and need it. So I think really, you know, this is being with the Housing Authority has been a huge growth for me over the last 16 years and really shifted a lot of my perspective. And I think it's important that we all continue to do that in our community and just quash those stereotypes that you hear over and over, because for the most part, they just aren't true.
Thank you.
And I'm sorry, can we go back to locally just for a moment? I was thinking about grassroots efforts earlier, and I do want to acknowledge some of those that are going on locally also. So we are up happening in the North Bay area, so which is for autistic and other abled individuals. But again, it's one woman's effort to pull it all together and make it happen. Life Plan Humboldt is coming along slowly, and I think it's around 100 units. So 100, when we're talking about homeless of like 3,000 people in our county, it's a dip in the bucket. It's still something. It's important. Churches, when Darlene was talking about food and how much food is given out. I know the Eureka Methodist Church does a monthly food drive, and they add everything up at the end of the month, and they aim for 100 pounds, which isn't a lot, but if every church is doing that, it all adds up. So I encourage, you know, use those of you who go to see if you can establish something there. And at the Housing Authority, it's not housing, but we've started our own kind of clothing closet. We have a shelf, and we bring in, you know, whatever our donations are and we put it there. And anything that people aren't having to spend on clothing, they can put towards their housing and other things. So it's time to be creative. Sorry, next slide.
And well, and let me just jump in here, Cheryl, quickly. And things that could seem just not important are really important. So we just had a staff person who worked with the local elementary school to do a sock drive. And last year they brought in almost 400 pair of socks. That makes such a difference to somebody who's sleeping in their car and may have wet feet and wet socks. So don't think that the small things are irrelevant. They are very relevant and very important.
And Darlene,
Thank you.
I see a question in the chat about where we can donate clothing. For us, we've kept it internal only just so we have a control of the flow. But do you also accept donations for clothing with Arcata House?
We do. And Florence, if you could unmute yourself and talk about, we have monthly donation drives. Florence, can you share that information?
So at Arcata House, we have a donation drive every month, and it is the last Saturday of the month from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. at our annex, which is at 501 9th Street in Arcata. And I can share the flyer.
Thank you. Yes, if you would send that off to Jane, I appreciate that.
Thank you. And I didn't realize that was monthly. That's really great. So then we take a look at what can we do nationally. So I think it's really important that we're all advocating for policy change, requesting more funding for affordable housing, requesting, you know, continued funding for our vouchers and increased funding. Not just that, you know, we keep it level, but that we ask for more, honestly. And for changes in policies to help speed up affordable housing. And then, of course, investments in mental health and addiction treatment and supportive housing. So I know that's a big part of Arcata House, is just providing those supportive services. But people forget that, you know, that takes a huge chunk of funding to be able to provide those services and that intensive care that's really needed to get somebody from houseless to housed to actually thriving and being independent. There's a huge transition period that happens in there. When you're voting, vote with housing in mind. I mean, this is something where I know none of us want more taxes, but if it's, you know, a little bit to us, it can mean a lot, as, you know, when it's all brought together. So know your measures that are on the ballot and your candidate positions, because that little bit of taxes to us can help prevent that huge public health crisis. And then just joining coalitions or advocacy groups. Every letter that you send helps just get the message out that this is what we're thinking about and this is what's important. Next slide. So just wanted to put it out there then, like, where do you go? Who do you contact? Our senators. And I think you all are very active folks, so you probably already know this, but in case you don't, it's as simple as going to Alex Padilla's website or Adam Schiff's website, and there's usually a button you can click on that says contact me, and you can just type in a quick letter there just to get on the radar. Hey, we are concerned about affordable housing and homeless assistance in Humboldt County. What are you going to do? And they will respond. And it may be a form letter, but you know what? The numbers matter. So your attention to that matters. Also, your U.S. Representative, Jared Huffman, you can go to his website and do the same thing. I know he's been really great about touching base locally with us and just asking what we need and then taking that back at the state level.
And I think, Cheryl, you know, the important thing for me is that although my job and my work and my voice is for affordable housing, food insecurity needs your support. Safe medical care needs your support. The arts need your support. NPR needs your support. We have to keep our voices out there. So whatever your area of interest is, please support that. I mean, obviously, I want Arcata House Partnership to be at the top of your list, but we're not the only, we are just one part of this homeless emergency response system. It takes all all of us. So if your heart is with Planned Parenthood or Food for People or NPR or the arts, then please advocate that way too, because together we make the community better. Next slide. Thank you. So there's our websites for both Arcata House Partnership and the Housing Authority. And now we open ourselves for questions. We
You
gave
did.
you a huge amount of information. Your heads must be exploding.
You did. There is a question from John Clark about what is the state and local government doing to replace some of the decrease in federal funding? Are they able to do that? Are they trying to do that? What's going on?
So the state has, their own funding programs, and I know that they're trying to keep those funded, but it's always a question because a lot of that flows from the federal government to the state. So there's the low-income housing tax credit program, and so that gives investors tax credits. So that helps fund new housing construction and some housing rehabilitation. But this is where I said, it takes money to get money. It is wildly competitive to try to obtain those tax credits. And so, and in Humboldt, we are competing with the rest of the state. So there are certain set asides at the state level that maybe we don't qualify for. So our bucket for funding in Humboldt is low, compared to Los Angeles or the Bay Area. So I think currently there's about $500 million allocated at the state level to support affordable rental housing. But again, that is for the entire state. There's a scarcity of funds. There's multifamily housing programs. There's affordable housing and sustainable communities program where some dollars are provided for transportation improvements, and then they also have dollars there for housing development. So we see that with the Link housing that's going up in Eureka right now, on Myrtle and on 6th Street and on G Street. They were able to finance some of those 90 or so units with ASIC grants. So the state does have some programs, but it always feels like they're at risk. Now, Darlene, I know you've had assistance through HHAP and Home Key, so maybe you can talk about those.
Sure. So HHAP, Housing and Homelessness Assistance Programs, and Home Key program. So we were very fortunate to be the recipients of some funding, lots of funding that came through the governor's office, and that is supporting housing for 78 people, and we appreciate that. In Humboldt County, we have other Home Key projects. We have another one in Arcata for 78 people. We have the new tribal Bear River one going in Eureka. The city of Eureka has some Home Key funding that they're working with. We've been very fortunate. The thing though to remember, and again, how do we advocate? One of the things I think that is not widely known is that the federal government has made it very clear that sanctuary states are not going to be receiving more federal money. So we at Arcata House Partnership was preparing a COC build, continuum of care build application to build new units. And I think 2.5, 3 weeks ago, the federal government released some information that said if you're in a sanctuary state, you're not going to get any of that federal money. What we're seeing is that the governor is really juggling the few resources that they have available, because federal resources are no longer coming. We're being told that. We're being told permanent supportive housing will not get renewed past this year. If it gets renewed this year at all, we don't know. That's 17,000 units in the state that are losing their housing. 17,000 units times 12,000 a month. That's a lot of housing units, unit rents. So that's just the beginning of places that we are struggling right now across the state to figure out how do we support those programs that currently are getting funded, even at a different rate, right? Again, supportive services is getting reduced, and we know that the people that we all serve, Arcata House Partnership serves, the Housing Authority serves, people need assistance and support, whether it's because they're transitioning from being homeless and they really have a lot to learn, whether it's that they're parents of young children who have never had an opportunity to learn how to be a good parent because they never had good parenting opportunities, whether it's the senior who needs to be in assisted living but there's no assisted living units. All of these things take extra support. And we're knowing that that support money is going away. So our government is our state government, I think, is struggling. They are doing some really good things. They're with the housing development funds, I think this is where they're making the biggest move. They're consolidating so that instead of having 8 different applications or 12 different applications to apply for tax credit money or other program support money, any of the kinds of tax credits, it's all going to be a one-stop application by the middle of next year. And that's going to make the ability to develop affordable housing so much easier. We think that it's going to move that opportunity from a 10-year plan to a 2.5-year plan. And so hopefully what we're going to see is that some of these processes are really going to start being very effective for us. What that means, what that doesn't mean though, is that there's no real plan to figure out how we're going to support the people who are currently getting support when these federal dollars go away. And so we still have a lot of work to do. Well, that was a long answer to a small question, but other questions?
Sarah Manager commented, yes on 50, pushback to this administration. That's one comment. Then I also was curious about how we're dealing with the crackdown on people living in cars, safe parking places, what's happening with existing homeless communities. Are they being, they've been knocked down and carried off? Where are people going?
I just made a really big sigh, Jane, because, oh, what a question. Cheryl, do you want to jump in first?
I think we just have to frame this as it's handled at each, city or local community level. And kind of back to this kind of grassroots thing. I think about Southern Humboldt and how they have just a few key individuals that are doing so much to actively, bring people out of the woods and get them food and then get them healthcare and then work towards getting them housing. But if those few individuals weren't there, it wouldn't be happening. And so that's how one place is doing it. Up here in this part of the county, it works a bit differently. I know that the city of Eureka has their Uplift program, and they try to, basically do the same, find those people that need assistance and get them temporary housing, get them to move toward more permanent housing, but their budgets are so limited that I think Uplift's allocation for permanent housing is only like 6 to 9 months per person. So, we work in partnership with this hope that they can transition then to a housing authority voucher. But like I said, we've had our vouchers frozen this year. So that impact is not just on the clients that we could be serving off our wait list. It's also on those clients that Uplift could be referring over us to help those people that they've taken from homelessness into kind of temporary shelter. But now that's cut off. So, and I don't know, Darlene, maybe you can speak to what Arcata is doing a little bit better than I can as far as kind of how that flow is working.
Sure. I think one of the things we're seeing across the shelter system, not just in Arcata, but across the shelter system, is that people are coming into the shelters. We're doing street outreach and we're trying to meet people. But once they get into the shelter, there's no housing support. So our system is clogged. And all of us, the Mission, Betty, Uplift, Arcata House Partnership, we're all feeling that clog. So there's no room in our shelters personally for people to come into. So what we're seeing overall is just more frustration. I mean, of course people have been frustrated for years and years because there's not been enough shelter, enough housing, enough support. And people have been on the streets for a very long time asking for help. And that's not going to change. But what we are seeing is that the governor has suggested that people get tickets if they're building encampments where there shouldn't be. And that's a really hard thing. And at Arcata House Partnership, we walk a fine line there between, yes, people should not build encampments on private property where they don't have permission. Yes. If a private property owner wants somebody to not camp on their property, they have the right to ask people not to camp on their property, and they have the right to ask the law enforcement for assistance with that. However, we know that there aren't any places for people to camp legally right now. And so that makes it really difficult. What we're saying to people is make yourself as unobtrusive as possible. If you're sleeping in a doorway, wake up before the business owner starts, and they're probably not going to complain about you. Throw your trash away. Keep your area neat and clean. There are certain things that can happen to help people stay less visible and to help the community be a little more welcome.
Sarah said she's a retired teacher who served many unhoused, she meant unhoused students and families. This is good info. I'll be calling Representative Huffman and senators with the message suggested. Kay said, please flood your media resources with yes on 50. It's crucial. Speak with friends and families. Watch for my letter to the journal editor for reasons to support, and go out and support positive efforts for housing. It's easy to get the opposed out in droves. Not so easy to get supporters out to speak in favor. We all are advocates if we wish to be so and take the time. You can write postcards, you can write letters to the editor, you can support somebody else's letter to the editor, you can speak at organizations, you can raise your hand and say, hey man, I'll be happy to help with X. I know the Senior Resource Center helps. It has programs. So check out and see what's available locally and how you can help. We have many seniors. There's a home share program. And I know a lot of people are afraid about that. But you can talk to the Senior Resource Center about that. And a lot of us who are older and have lost spouses have space, but we're a little concerned about that. And the legal implications of doing that. So check it out with the Senior Resource Center. Do you guys have any other questions or suggestions you want to offer up?
I think it's important to remember how we're thinking about people who are homeless, right? It's not just the person that's sitting on the plaza talking to themselves. It's that woman next to you in church. It's the child sitting next to your grandchild in school. It's the server at the restaurant that you're going to have lunch at today. We're not just talking about the people with serious mental health and substance use issues. That's a very small percentage of the new people we're seeing coming to us. The vast majority is you and I and people like us who are seniors, who live on fixed incomes, and for whatever reason, something has happened in their life and they're becoming homeless or at risk of becoming homeless. And so I really want to encourage people to look at how you, when you hear homeless, what do you think? And what does that mean? Right? And how do we then look to our neighbors and the people that we know and the people who are serving us and the people who are in sleeping in their cars? You may think somebody's just like pulled over and had a nap in their car. You don't know that they actually just spent the night in their car. And at our age, sleeping in the car causes serious medical conditions, right? We have people who get serious blood clots in their legs because they're sleeping, sitting up all the time. And so please think about how you think when you hear the word homeless.
And I'll just tack on to that kind of a last thought from me, which is, this idea that everything worth doing kind of starts out with a little bit of fear. But those are the things that we should be doing regardless. So, talking to your neighbor, maybe they have a negative view of homelessness. Um, see what you can do to get them educated, get yourself educated, have those conversations out in public, like you said, write to the editor and just, because all of us working on the education side of thing is the smallest and easiest thing that we could be doing. So I just encourage you all to think about how you can participate in that. And then I just also wanted to say thank you to Darlene and Arcata House, because the Housing Authority, we're federally funded programs, and really up until recently we have felt very secure in that. But Arcata House is out there scraping together funding from I don't even know how many different sources every year, but they're the ones that are providing shelter when it's stormy and cold and providing food and all of that, so that the rest of the community doesn't have to worry about those folks. So I would also encourage you all to consider and encourage others to help their organization with your own donations.
Thank you. And with that, Cheryl, Thanksgiving's coming. We're starting to take lists of volunteers because we're certainly going to be hosting a Thanksgiving dinner on Thanksgiving Day. We serve about 300 people's dinner, and so we can certainly use people's support. We appreciate you. Extreme weather shelter and the winter's coming, and so blankets and clothes and socks and all of those things are going to be really important, along with volunteers too. So I encourage you to contact, go to our website, and there's a link there to volunteer. And again, donations of the smallest kind, one sweater that you no longer use could make the difference in some person's life. And so thank you for that.
And I think always remember there, but for the grace of God, go I. We think we're safe. Guess what? Nobody's totally safe. You don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. And community is what saves us all. We need to stop thinking just about ourselves, but about how we can help each other. And I think that's critical. I want to thank you for coming and sharing this information, and all of you, please go forth and share this information and encourage others to help. And I know some of you got an early announcement of next week's Brown Bag Lunch program, where Lori Dengler is going to come and talk about the 1954 Blue Lake earthquake that happened on December 21st, 1954, which was a magnitude 6.5 earthquake striking somewhere south of Blue Lake. It's the only quake in our historic calendar that may have been centered on a mapped surface fault. Anyway, they've been learning more about this. We should learn more about the fun things going on underground in our world and how we might want to prepare for that. But as I said, thank you all for coming, and thank you for attending. We totally appreciate it, and we look forward to seeing you again next week.
Thank you.
Thank you for all your good work. From Bonnie. And I think from everybody. Okay, Dane, shutdown time.